Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Passionately Speaking, our weekly public speaking training call. And tonight we have a very special guest that's going to speak, and that is Tommy Lemonade. And Tommy is going to speak about when life hands you lemons. So I want you to pay close attention to his speech and then jot down any notes you might have. And afterwards, I'm going to give him a little coaching on how he can even make it better. But tonight is all about speaking to be remembered. So we're going to talk later about what do you remember from his speech tonight. Okay, so Tommy, I'm not gonna time you. I'm just gonna let you go. So let's welcome Tommy Lemonade when life gives you lemons. Yay!
Yay.
All right. Okay, thank you. How many of you have had adversity in your life? A lemon so big you didn't know what to do. I know I have. For the next several minutes, I want you to share with you the transformational power of adversity in your life. I want to thank Arvee Robinson for this opportunity to speak and for all of you for giving me your time and attention today. But before I speak, I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I am Tommy of Tommy's Lemonade, a business that was created out of adversity. I'm a best-selling author and a motivational speaker. As a retired psychologist, I spent nearly 30 years helping people overcome adversity in their lives. Some who had lemons so big it nearly crushed them. My clients taught me many valuable lessons, and I took what I learned from them, as well as dealing with my own life tragedies. And I want to share with you what I have discovered. When God hands you lemons. And I want to begin by saying, what do you do when life hands you a lemon? Not the metaphorical kind, but the real ones. A betrayal by a trusted friend or family member, feeling burned out, a lawsuit, cancer diagnosis, maybe a divorce or a death. Life has a way of catching us off guard. One moment everything is smooth, and then bam, a lemon drops in your life. The sour hits your soul hard. You didn't ask for it. You didn't plan on it. But here it is, interrupting your life and making you question everything. I've been there, and maybe you have too. But what if the sour moment isn't the end? What if it's the squeeze that unlocks a sweetness inside of you and points you to your calling? Number one, God never wastes a squeeze. What is a squeeze? The squeeze is the adversity that presses in on us. So when adversity hit, it will reveal what's inside of you, whether it's fear, pride, unresolved pain, your questions about who God is and why is this happening. But it will also press out hidden strength, creativity, and a vision. My cancer story. It was 2019. I had taken a PSA test, which is a prostate test, and my PSA score was elevated. And I wasn't worried or concerned because you can have an elevated PSA score, and it doesn't necessarily mean cancer. It can mean you just have an enlarged prostate. It's benign. And oftentimes they say, you'll even if you have prostate cancer, you'll die before it affects you. So I wasn't concerned, even though my father had prostate cancer that later spread to his pancreas, in which he passed away from that. But I thought I would be different. This isn't happening to me. I'm healthy. I'm going to be fine. Let's not worry. Let's not get upset about anything. It was a voice of denial. And in truth, I was also going through one of the hardest times of my life. And I was already feeling overwhelmed because when I got diagnosed, I was in prison. And you don't want to get cancer in prison. You don't get to pick your doctor, and they're often not very good. So things were unbearable, and I just couldn't handle a cancer diagnosis. And the doctor was encouraging me to get a biopsy, but I put her off for about 9 months. And then finally, I got a biopsy. And it also included a Gleason score. And they rate the cancer from 0 to 10 based on how aggressive that cancer is. And I had a 9, 10 being the most aggressive. And at that point, I became in shock. And my story of immunity unraveled. I could no longer say I'm fine. And something began to form in me. I had to be humble and I had to surrender. I chose surgery and I accepted the path laid before me. And it was no longer what I wanted to believe in or what I hoped would happen. I had to face reality. I had to listen. I had to yield. And I had to follow through. And I had to let go of control and trust in a process that, while terrifying, might save my life. But during this time, I felt like I was drifting through a thick, suffocating fog. I was straining to hear the voice of God, and I couldn't hear him. I was trying to see his light, but I couldn't see it. It just felt like darkness was pressing in on my chest, and all I could feel was fear. It was like icy waters going through every thought, and the fear was whispering in my ear, what if I don't make it through the surgery? What if I'll be like my dad? Or what if I get through the surgery and it comes back and devours me? I was alone because in prison, you can't have family there. You can't have friends there. There was no family. There was no friends to hold my hand. It was just me, my cancer diagnosis, and I was straining to hear from God. And at that point, I didn't hear him. And I was in the hospital, and it felt cold, and it felt sterile. And they're rolling me into the operating room. And when I get into the operating room, I see Da Vinci. That's the name of the robot that operates on you. And they just, robots, in one sense, it's good because they only had to make like 7 small incisions. And the doctor's behind the computer telling the robot, Da Vinci, what to do. But it just made me feel smaller and more fragile than ever. And as the nurse moved to put an IV in me that would send me into oblivion, my soul was screaming for something human, for something warm, for something real and tangible. And I didn't know a soul. And I was about ready to go under the knife. And I turned my head. And there I was fighting the longing and the emotion in my voice. And I turned and looked at her. And I said, "Can you tell me your name?" And she paused, she took my hand, and she looked in my eyes. And she said, "My name is Grace." And in that instant, that one word, grace, the fog cracked open. And there was a warmth that rushed over my body like a holy fire. And I felt him. He was no longer distant. He was no longer silent, but he was right there with me, right beside the whirling machines and Da Vinci. And there was a peace that filled the hollow places of my soul where the fear had been. And it whispered to me that no matter what happened, I would be okay. And I would be covered by grace.
This meeting is being recorded.
And I discovered what Paul discovered when he said, "My grace is sufficient for you." And I went under with a peace and a calm in my heart. And denial had nearly cost me dearly, but by the grace of God, I woke up in time. What was meant to be evil against me, God meant for good in order to bring about encouragement into people's lives. And that's what I want to tell you today. The sour moments, don't ever let them define you because they're not the end. They're preparing you for your real assignment. Point number 2, things get realigned when adversity comes. When that lemon hits, we reevaluate our lives because we like to go on cruise control in life. We like it to be Margaritaville and be in a hammock and have blue skies. But when adversity hits, we reevaluate our life. We ask, what's important? Am I doing what I want to be doing? Am I pursuing what I want to pursue? What's important to me? So the lemon strips us, not to punish us, but to prune us. So God uses adversity. He uses lemons to realign our trajectory. That failed business idea, maybe you were barking up the wrong tree. That closed door, maybe it was a door of protection. The loss, it might be the very place a new ministry is born. For we know that all things work out for good by God for those who are called according to his purpose. God doesn't sweeten the lemon by removing the pain in our lives. He sweetens it by redirecting our path, by realigning us, to realign us with his purpose in mind, a purpose we may not have chosen if it hadn't been for the lemon, so that we are transformed, so that we in turn can transform others. The pain purifies, the purpose refocuses, and in that intersection, clarity comes. Number 3, sweetened by grace. After every squeeze, after the realignment, the lemonade still needs to be sweetened because the pain is still there. The pain's not gone. It still hurts. And the sweetness comes from one source and one source only, and that's God's grace. It's not your hustle. It's not your clever branding. It's not running to the next conference. It's not about new business ideas. It's about grace. Paul tells us that grace is all we need, and that his power is perfected when we're weak, because adversity will make us feel weak, but his grace works best when we're weak. It is that grace that will let you smile again. It's grace that will turn your failure into a new roadmap, which in turn will become a roadmap for other people as you share with them. Grace is what turns your mess into ministry, your business into a blessing, and your burden into a breakthrough. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to be squeezed, to be poured out, to be realigned, and God will sweeten what's left with a goodness that the world can taste. So when people sip your story, will they taste bitterness or will they taste grace? I wrote, when God hands you lemons, not because I have all the answers, Lord knows I don't, but because I know what it's like to be crushed and to still get up. Because it's not how many times you fail, it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get up and allow grace to be poured over you. God never promised that we wouldn't be squeezed, but he did promise to be near the brokenhearted. He did promise that what was meant to be evil, he can turn to good. And he did promise that his grace would be enough. So today I invite you, don't ever waste your lemons. Don't run from the squeeze. Allow yourself to be poured, and then share it, and let God turn your sour into something sacred. And when you do, you'll discover what I did. You're not just enduring the squeeze, you're being poured with a purpose and sweetened by grace.
Yay, beautiful. Well done. Let me take you off of the spotlight. Okay, there. All right, everybody give him some love emojis. Ooh, let me see. Where's our love emojis? There we go. Give him some love. Good.
There it is.
Good job. And there's the book. There's the book. Okay, so we're going to talk about what you remembered and what he used to get you to remember it. Because every time we speak, we want our audience to remember us. We want them to at least remember a story or remember something about that and recite it. But I just want to share just a little bit of coaching, if I could, Tommy. So your attention, so when you started out with your attention grabber, okay, yes, you followed the system, but we always want people, we always want to use the system in a way that it's invisible and that it sounds like we're just flowing. We don't want people to know that, boom, step one, step two, step three. So as you do this attention grabber, the very first start was good, but we were all raising our hands and it was kind of like a rhetorical question on your part. In other words, you ran right over our, because your first question was, has life ever given you limits, so to speak, right? And we were all raising our hands, but you kept talking.
Okay.
So never ask it as an attention grabber for everybody. A rhetorical question. It's got to be a question that you're really seeking the answers, because in the very few seconds, you're trying to get your audience to align with you. That's, get their attention, yes, but it's really to align with you. Like, how many of you have ever fallen on your face? Oh, me too, kind of thing, right? We're seeking that similarity, right? That togetherness. So you really want to see how many of you have ever gotten lemons. I mean, and when you say it, it's not, don't, for all of you, don't just ask the question because it's part of the system. How many of you want more clients? No, it's really like you're trying to find the answer. How many of you here really need more clients? You're searching to see if what you have will help solve their problem, or if they're in the right place, or if you align with them. Okay, so really be seriously seeking the answer to whatever your attention grabbing questions are.
Thank you.
Yeah, just that shift will make it seem more real. And then you'll stop naturally. Of course, I know you were reading your part of it, And we have to be careful of reading even online because we can see that you're reading. And what happens when people read, we read differently than we speak. So what happens is like it sounds different. Your sentences just sound different. I don't know if it goes up on the sentence at the end or something, but most of us read differently. You know, we're used to reading storytelling books to, you know, maybe our children or in class or whatever. And so that kind of comes out. So we have to be careful if we are forced to read to just use it as kind of a refresher and speak kind of paraphrase it if we need to instead of trying to say every single word that we wrote. But having said that, Tommy, I know you've done this speech several times, and it's time that you got rid of the notes. I know you know this, right? You know it. I've seen you do it without notes. And when you do it without notes, you are so powerful. The words, the Holy Spirit just comes through you and speaks through you. I've seen it. And that's what this speech needs. Because every time you tell that story, I cry. I didn't this time, but every time, I mean, I've heard it 5 times, but it still makes me cry the way you say it, right? Without notes. So just keep that in mind for all of you. You know, we try to, you know, we want to do good. We're trying to do good, so we keep our notes. But we miss the connection here in our heart with the audience. We can't speak from our soul or our heart if we're reading. We speak only from our head. And we can try to make it sound like we're emotional with our words and our vocal, right? But if you can't speak from here, and this speech calls for soul speaking, not just heart speaking, soul speaking. So I want you to do it again. Let's give you a couple of weeks. I want you to bring it back because I want these ladies to see how powerful that speech is and just the difference now when you get away from notes in case they're inclined to use them themselves. Once you got to your story and you got to talk about grace, and you looked a little bit, but that's when you started to speak, really. That like halfway through the speech. And that was powerful. And I just love that story about grace. And I heard a couple things that I didn't hear before, and you probably said them, but I didn't hear them. And this time I saw them. See, the way we remember people's speeches is we see it. So you said it in a way this time that I saw it. And that was the robots and the doctors behind the screen doing whatever to get the robots. Oh my God, my brain just went, right? I never heard that before. That's terrible. I'm sorry, but to think you're laying there and doctors are behind, I can see the whole thing behind the screen and the white jackets, and you're in there all by yourself and little robot things. Oh my goodness, I'd be scared to death. But I got it this time. So, however you shared that, perfect. If we don't visualize it for ourselves, it doesn't have any emotional impact. And that had emotional impact, right? I always could see Grace and I could see what she looks like and I could see her coming over. You know, you've always done that really well, but the robot thing got me this time. So that was an added surprise, you know. Okay. Now when you get into your points, right? Because it's kind of it's a very sad, you know, sad story, and we feel it, and you do a great job of making us feel it. But then it's like we when you start to give us hope, the answers, the solution. Again, this is everybody. We want to see a change in your demeanor. You did it toward the end. You got a little happy, but we want to get you out of that sad feeling and off to, okay, you know, here is, you know, a little happier, right? We don't have to stay down anymore. It's over. And now here's what you learned and you're giving it to us. So just keep that in the back of your head too. How many points do you have? 3?
3 and then the closing. Yeah.
And then the closing, because it would be really, you talk so much about grace, it'd be really fun if you could use the acronym GRACE.
Mm.
A couple of more. I don't know. Think about that. If you could somehow use the acronym of GRACE, that would be fun. And then, um, excuse me, my own writing. Um, okay. And so then in the end, at one point, I thought you ended and then you kept going. So it was kind of like you concluded with this is how we do, this is how you do it when life gives you lemons, but then you turn around and kept going. So I want you to just look at the ending. Make sure you don't have two endings or what people might call conclusions, but it's kind of like I thought you were done, finished, and then you kept going. So just take a look at that. You might rearrange the closing a little bit, and but then you ended for real, and it was all good and you got happy and everything. Because again, this shows, when you go, you're kind of going and then, you go down, 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 but then you get us up again and then kind of go straight and then give us hope, right? Because you don't want us to keep down here. And what you've done, I mean, is so courageous, just speaking about this, writing about it, writing a book about it. And I've said it before to you, it's so courageous and so brave. My hat's off to you, my heart's off to you. I don't know that I would have that kind of bravery and courageousness that you have. I mean, think about it, everybody. This is him spilling the guts, spilling the beans, enough, like spilling the beans just enough. We don't need to know anymore to feel the impact of what he's gone through and how God has delivered him, and life gives you lemons. And I just sometimes I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm I'm sorry, but I'm glad that God didn't give me those lemons, It makes me grateful. And all of us should be grateful too. I mean, for the lemons that we got, we can handle. God gives us what we can handle, right? It says that He gives us only what we can handle. And you've handled it. And I'm just so proud of you and so proud of you just sharing and shedding. And I hope it's freeing for you because I could see how it could be, I'm so proud of you for doing that. Okay, so that being said, I want to go around the room and I want you to share what you remember most about Tommy's speech and his story. All right. And if we can all kind of share maybe different things, I think Tommy will get a little more out of it. But if that's all you got, if that's one story, then share that. That's all good. All right, let's start with Ramona. Like again, our topic tonight is speak and be remembered. By us being able to remember whatever Tommy said, that'll help you what? Do the same thing, right? Do the same thing. Okay, Ramona.
Well, something I really liked about the way that he spoke is um, that he used uh, a lot of examples in the sense of, like you said, how many of you had, this situation or know what it feels like through a divorce, or maybe you had he used a lot of, and each of those things, situations that all of us could kind of like, yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi.
And I like that I like that kind of speaking. So yeah, it was very good.
Okay. Dawn, what do you remember?
I remember the part where he's introduced to, Grace introduces herself to him. And what part that I remember is that the Holy Spirit filled him with warmth in the areas where fear used to be. And I really remember that striking. And then he had the Holy Spirit, the warmth of the Holy Spirit. I can imagine it next to him. And through the whole thing, the Holy Spirit was there.
Beautiful. Guiding the little probes. Okay, Katrina. And Katrina, you've heard this a couple times. I know Dawn's a couple times too. So remember. And did anything new stick out this time?
Probably what I remember most is the feeling of being in the hospital alone with no family, not having good access to medical care and just feeling so alone. And, I'm sure it's a stark place that doesn't have any kind of happiness attached to it. So that's what stuck out to me most this time.
Beautiful. And what one thing that stood out too for me, Tommy, was when you know you said that you put off your biopsy, right? And then it was like stage 9 or whatever, right? Stage 9. Am I getting it right? I mean, like, what happened? It's more of a question. What made you finally go and get that biopsy after you put it off so long?
I'd seen the doctor like 2 or 3. So there was a 9-month period before I got that biopsy. And in between each time the doctor, I probably saw the doctor, I don't know, 3 times during that time. And she was encouraging me each time, you really need a biopsy. You should get a biopsy. And she brought up, you have a family history of cancer, and that kind of jarred me.
Got it.
My dad had it, so I thought, you know what, I better get a biopsy.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. Kind of like God giving you that nudge
yeah.
too. Yeah. Okay. Caldine.
Yeah, I was just really, really getting lost in it because a lot of things that he said just reminded me of some things that I've had to walk through. But what I really liked about it is how he talks about transformation comes. God changes us so that we can change others, and how we have to go through this process of having sour lemons in our life. Because if we didn't, no one else would change and we wouldn't change. And then the next thing that I really like, I enjoyed your persona, the sadness of it, the seriousness of it. And then it reminded me when I was in the hospital and the doctor held my hand, when he realized I had blood clots in my lungs and in my legs, like, it was almost like, this is it, so it kind of reminded me of what the doctor said to me. And he held my hand, and he just had to smile, and I was able to administer to him and say, God is going to bring me through this, but so it was just so good because it was like I was just so much in a part of all that you had to say, just to see how God brings us through the hard times, but we must go through them. And then the transformation, the joy, the peace, all of those things afterwards is so wonderful. It's worth it all, you know. Thank you for that. And I do have your book. It's on the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into that book. I like some of the phrases you use. I'm going to use them. You don't mind, right?
No, use them.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tommy, go ahead and put the link in the chat if you know the link to your Amazon. I recommend that everyone get the book. I have it as well. And, if you mail it to Tommy, he'll sign it and mail it back to you. If you're out of state. But it's a wonderful book. Okay, let's go to Tanya. Tanya, are you with us today? Oh, today is Tanya's birthday.
His birthday, yes.
Today is Tanya's birthday.
Yes.
So I don't think she's there, but why don't we sing anyway? And maybe she'll listen to the recording. So we'll sing to her. All right, you want to start? Tanya, you start.
I am here.
Oh,
I
you're
just not
here.
on screen because
Well,
I'm moving around.
We want to sing happy birthday. So let's start. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
Birthday to
to
you.
you.
Happy birthday, dear
Dear
Tanya.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday to
to
you.
Also, we're welcoming her into the 70 Club.
Oh
Oh,
God.
wow. The
Can't
big
believe
one.
it. I freaking can't believe it.
I know.
But I actually like this age. This is really cool because you can kind of feel how you want to feel. Don't have to worry. Well, I never cared about what people think anyway, so I think that's always been a blessing. I didn't have to wait to 70 to get there. But yeah, it's actually really a lot of fun. So thank you. How did you know it was my birthday? Facebook?
Well, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
knew.
guess so got it. But thank you. Thank you for the beautiful song. Um, Tommy, my pastor is on the Holy Spirit. And yesterday I said, okay, I mean, I know about the Holy Spirit and I know all those things about the Holy Spirit. But by him ministering, yesterday I said, okay. So I asked the Holy Spirit, I said, guide me all through the day. I mean, I was like really into it. And he just guided me and everything was working in sync. And it was just really unbelievable, even though I know the Holy Spirit does that. But I think when you really focus on the Holy Spirit doing that, I mean, people were, give an example. I called Argina for something totally different. And she said, oh, it's my last day here at the African festival that we're having, which is about 2 minutes from my house. And I went, oh, shoot, you're right. I forgot. So I think it wasn't a coincidence I called her. Then I went there. Then I found these boots I want for my birthday party. And then I found it. I mean, it was like, I know the Holy Spirit has more important things to do than find me some boots. But But I guess the point of it was when you rely on the Holy Spirit, he will lead you to where you're supposed to be. And that's what I got from your message, Tommy, is that the hope. I like the hope part. It's like, I mean, you went through some things that I guess, like Arvee said, God will only give you what you can bear, but the lives that you changed and what he's put you through so you can change lives of others. Because I was at your party and I saw the lives that were changed just from you being there. So I think your message that I got today, I kept going in and out. I don't know why I kept dropping off, Arvee. That's why you had to keep letting me in. Was the hope message that we might have our lemons. We are going to go through things. It's a guarantee, but relying on God will see us through it and will bring us out to the best people that we can be. And sometimes it's not all about us. It's the effect that we have on other people. And so that's what I got. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Mm-hmm. All right. So one more round of applause for Tommy and his courageous speech.
Yay!
And it's just going to get better and better, Tommy. Just keep refining it, keep practicing it, keep delivering it. Make it a mission to start delivering it to all the CBP chapters. Wherever you're comfortable. Obviously, you have to be comfortable because you're sharing your soul with others. But keep speaking it because that's how you'll get better and better and better and be remembered. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So I have a few more steps to add to that, to how you speak and be remembered. So as we saw, Tommy opened with an attention grabber. And yes, that's going to be the first thing, because if people don't, if we can't grab their attention, if they don't listen to us, then it's hard to, for them to remember us. But we want an attention grabber that will get them in such a way, like I said, that will align them with us. So they feel like they're part of us and we feel like they think we're part of them. So similarities attract, not opposites. That's a bunch of baloney. Similarities attract, and we want to find something that we're similar to our audience. Okay, so whatever that is. So we want to make sure that we open with that kind of moment, that moment of truth, that moment of connection, as opposed to some resume, like some speakers, even when we do our introduction and they just start right out with, I do this and this and this. Let's find that moment of connection first, and then tell them who you are and what you're about. So that's number one. Number two, make them feel something fast, like quick. And Tommy, you did this like right away. you did this. Now, we can do it with our thank you. If we're following order, we can do it with our, for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to, because it shows that we care about them. But I always recommend that you add a piece of yourself to it. So instead of saying you thank you for being here, whatever, take a moment, like really look at your audience and, thank them for their energy. Be really, truly grateful that they fought the rain to be there, or that they, didn't watch Monday Night Football to be there on a Monday, whatever it might be. I need you to stop and think, what did these people do to get here? Everybody went through something. Either they had to get a babysitter, or they had to leave their wives or husbands, or they had to, leave work early. But everybody makes an effort when they go to what? When they go to your speak engagement, when they go to your house, when they go to your party, when they go to your events. Everybody. So be in that moment and be grateful, because when you feel it, they're going to feel it. When you're genuinely grateful, they're going to feel it. So in the first few seconds, make them feel something. It's number 2. Number 3, you want, and I've talked about this is your story, right? So we've gone through our attention grabber, our opening, our welcome, and now the story. And many times I've said this, and that share your story, heal, but do not leave scars, right? Do not leave scars. And that doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to hurt somebody in the audience by what you say. I'm talking about yourself. You want to give them just enough so they're not asking a bunch of questions and lost, but you don't have to share every single thing about yourself. Does that make sense? Right? Because it could be hurtful for them and you. So don't leave scars, right? And I always use the example, it's a perfect example. I didn't happen to anybody. It's a made-up example, just so you know. But if some woman was to say she had a double mastectomy, instead of just saying I had breast cancer, what are you going to think the next time you see her? That she had no boobs, right? That's a scar. That's what I mean by a scar. You don't even want to think it. You can't unsee it. And it might not be true, right? You don't know if she had 2 lumpectomies. You don't know, right? So what I'm saying is share enough, but you don't have to share everything, right? Don't leave a scar, all right? And certainly not an open wound. Scars could leave open wounds. People can think things, and they think all kinds of, they're going to think something bad, or worse than you can even imagine. All right, number 4, give them, this is a fun one. Now we're in the body of the speech. I love this one. Again, we're talking about speaking and being remembered. Give them language that they can remember. Give them language they can repeat. Like when life gives you lemons, let's make lemonade. Sayings like that, right? We have them in our real life. We always say fun little things, and give them something in your speech that they can remember. Tommy kept saying squeeze, right? When God squeezes you. Things like that. I'll always remember that, squeezing. One of the sayings I always say is the lemon isn't worth the squeeze, right? Or is the lemon worth the squeeze? Just little sayings like that you can say that people can latch on to and remember. And it could be something positive, right? About his hope, when giving people hope and giving him grace and all of that. And one of the best ways to do that, and Tommy, you can add this, is get your audience to repeat it then. So if you say something like saved by grace, you can say, okay, saved by grace. The next time you say it, what is it? Saved by, and everybody will say grace. And that helps them to remember it by repeating it. So think of ways you can do that, because you have some great little sayings and sentences in there that they could repeat. And you do a few of them repeatedly, the squeezing and some other things. So take a look and see where you could use that technique. Okay, number 5, real quick. This is, again, we're in the body of the speech. Always use pauses, but use them strategically. So for Tommy, he used pauses in between, like his story, right? He used it during the Grace story. He paused before he got into the meat of the story, right? The only thing you need to do is pause, but then change the light, change your light, because you were still in the darkness a little bit. So change your light. Whew, now that's gone. And here's the answer. Okay. Number 6, and you did this well, but all of us need to make sure we do this, and that's change your energy midway. Change your energy. So the energy changes when you start talking about solutions, benefits, all of that kind of thing. It's an energy change, right? And that would change your voice as well, right? When we change our energy, our voice is going to be different. It's going to be higher, going to be more exciting, faster, maybe. And again, that helps us to be unforgettable, and that's what we're trying to do. So when you have a soft voice, it can be powerful. Stories, of course, story voice, you're telling a story with a lesson. But when you have excitement, that voice goes up 4 or 5 octaves, right? For most of us, girls, maybe even a little bit more. All right, that's very noticeable. Okay, number 7. End with a clear emotional shift. And that's, Tommy did that. He did that when he talked about hope, giving us all hope. Kind of summed it up nicely, wrapped it up, and then left us with hope. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, that kind of thing. So always wrap it up and give us that emotional shift, which is usually hope. We, as speakers, give and offer hope. All right, and last one. Last one that I'm going to give you here is tell a story that is worth retelling. And I'm not talking about your personal story necessarily. Now, for Tommy, the whole thing kind of was a personal story. But the story we will remember is the Grace story, right? He shared a story that all of us will remember. The way he shared it, his own emotions about it, we were there, the visual, all of it. So when you tell a story, even if it's your personal story, but it's great to tell stories in your speech. If you remember, when you do your outline, you want to add some stories out to draw the points home, whether it's a story about a client or another story about you. Not every single point, but a couple of them. And that's what I'm talking about. Make that a story someone remembers by wanting to retell it. All of you could retell the Grace story, couldn't you? Right? We could all share that. And I think I have shared it with people because it's a great story. That's how you will be remembered, through your stories. Right? So that's the last one that I want to share with you. I have a few more, but we will end with that one. Okay, and Tommy, great job. You did all of those things. And next time, I can't wait to hear it again without the notes. Yes.
Question. On the attention grabbers, so I kind of plowed over people after I said the question. So I opened with, how many of you have had adversity in your life? And I should have paused a lot later. Otherwise, if I had paused and acknowledged it, then it would have been okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Try it again right now.
How many of you have had adversity in your life? Thank you. Many people. Should I comment on it?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you acknowledge that you saw us, that
Okay.
we admitted it and that you saw us. So yes, many. Yeah,
Yes.
that's good. That's a good way to do it.
Let me ask a question, Arvee. What if he asked just the opposite? How many of you have never had adversity in your life?
That wouldn't be true, and nobody would raise their hand.
Right.
Our question is to get 99% of the audience, to act
Oh,
physically and raise their
got it.
hand. Because when we got their attention with their mind, with a question, and then physical, they're not thinking about lunch or anything else. They are with you 100%.
Got it. Okay.
That's why we don't want to say things like, oh, how many of you claim bankruptcy? You know, something that nobody wants to answer either, whether it's true or not. So stick with the positive. Yes.
And then you said it sounded like I was kind of lockstep going through your outline. I'm not sure how that came across. It was like, okay, this is the attention grabber. Here's the welcome. Here's the thank you. It felt like that, or
Yes. Yes. You can, all of you can keep it from sounding too step-like just by adding more of your own personal feelings to it. Like instead of saying thank you and I want to thank Arvee Robinson, it can be more like a little bit more chit chat, a little bit more real. Like thank you for all of you being here. I know it took a lot. I know a lot of you sacrificed something to be here, or thank you for your energy, or something. Just add more sincerity words and sentences rather than just the step. Thank you. Thank the host. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Just to add a little bit more, more ad lib, more natural words to it, and you'll be fine. Yeah. All right. Any other questions before we end our call tonight? Okay. There's a good call. Everybody enjoyed it.
Yes.
Some real life speech, some real life coaching, and then some training to boot. All right. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments or announcements that they want to make before we end? Okay, no announcements, no anything. Okay, well, Tanya, we wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're
Great
welcome.
day, just doing nothing, watching the clouds. The clouds are so beautiful. I'm a cloud person, so I'm just enjoying it.
Great.
Okay, good. Well, it was sunny a minute ago, and now it got all dark again. So I guess more rain is in our future.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll end our call today. Get out there and start speaking. I want to hear about all of you speaking. And remember, when you do speak, to always speak with passion. Mwah. Bye, everyone.
Mwah.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.